Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video is going to be all about pots. So for today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys some of my pots, the three different main kinds that I can think of, and then where I get them. So the first category I'm going to be talking about is pots with drainage. Pots with drainage holes on the bottom of them are really nice. That hole in the bottom really allows all that excess water to exit out of the soil when you're watering the plant. So it really helps you not overwater your plant, and it allows the soil to aerate a little bit better afterwards. I really highly recommend this kind of pot, especially if you're a beginner. It makes it just a little bit more foolproof. So now I'm going to show you guys a couple different pots that I have with drainage holes. This first one, really any kind of pot and material. This one's like a tin. It has a hole at the bottom like so. So that means it has drainage, which is really nice. I would also recommend, if you all are looking for a pot with drainage holes, there's things called drip pans, and that is this right here, and the pot sits in it. So any excess water that comes out will drip into that pan. After you're done watering, I do recommend dumping out the excess water that did come in here. The roots can sometimes suck it back up, and that can kind of lead to the soil being a little bit more saturated than you would want. So be sure to dump that out, or if you're become more experienced, you'll get pretty good at judging how much water to put in it. These two pots are both terracotta pots. It is so easy to find terracotta pots, and I don't know if I've ever seen one without a drainage hole. They're made of this material. When you water the plant, the pot will actually soak up the excess water. So as you can see here, this pot is a lot darker. Normally terracotta is like a medium orange color, but when you water it, it will get to this nice dark color. When the plant starts to dry out a little bit more, it'll turn into that, again, that original orange color of the terracotta pot. Also, an awesome thing about terracotta pots is that, like I said earlier, they're super accessible, and then two, they're really cheap. I want to say this particular pot was maybe $2. Super easy to get your hands on, very cost effective. And if you don't like that orange color, there's about a million different ways you can paint them. I have a video on how I whitewashed some of mine, so if you're interested in that, I will link it down below, but they are a great option. Now there's also pots that aren't terracotta that have the drainage holes in them. As you can see, this is probably a glazed ceramic pot. I get a lot of my pots at Ross, TJ Maxx, kind of those discount stores like that. They have awesome, super cheap pots. I also like more specialty pots you can get at local nurseries, but just kind of beware when you go to a local nursery, more often than not, the pots will be a little bit more expensive. Okay, and then the last pot I wanted to touch on with drainage holes is this guy right here. And this one is unique because it is a pot that has a drainage hole, and it also has a drip pan that is attached to the pot. So that means with this one, you can't take the pot away from that drip pan. So they are connected. I really like these kind of pots. It's just super easy if you're going around the house and just want to water them. Next up, I want to talk about pots that do not have holes. So these are just pots. They're typically called cache pots or cache pots. And they are holes, they're not holes, they are pots without holes. So just like pots with drainage holes, there's also these cache pots, and they come in a lot of different materials. Like here, I have this one that kind of looks like bark, another ceramic one, and then they also have baskets or woven things with pots. It's really cool. I like them a lot. But I will say I do not recommend potting directly into these pots without drainage holes. It makes it super tricky to water them. You really don't want excess water sitting in the pot with no way to air out. It is just a hot spot for root rot. So definitely, if you can avoid it, do not pot directly in a pot without a drainage hole. I can make a video if y'all are interested. I've bought a ton of cache pots that have not had drainage holes, but I have drilled a drainage hole in it personally. If you guys want a video on it, it's pretty straightforward, but I know I would have benefited from that back in the day. So if you want a video on how to drill a hole in your pot, be sure to let us know. Okay, so let's get a little more in depth with these and how I get around the drainage hole issue. So this one right here, as you can see, it is actually a nursery pot inside of this cash bow. So when I take this pot out, this is a nursery pot. It's just a plastic one that you would buy the plant in. They're really great. They have holes on the bottom of them that allow for the water to drain out. So when you water this guy, you just take the nursery pot out of the cash bow and you water it, and then when you're done, you stick it back in. A few tips and tricks I have about these guys too, like if you have a plant that you really want in a certain pot, but it kind of like sits a little bit too low or just isn't fitting exactly right, I've done about anything under the sun to get my plants to fit right. I've put ramen noodle packets like still in the package on the bottom of the pot and then put the plant on top of it. You can fold up dish rags and kind of rest the plant on top of that inside the pot. Those two tips really have helped me, and I have quite a few plants in my house that I've done that to. You can't see it, so it's really easy and cost effective if you just have some old dish rags laying around or like a ramen packet. Thaylen's had this spicy like shrimp ramen packets for years, and I was like, okay, we never eat these, so I'm gonna put them to use for something. Sometimes you can get really lucky with cash bows, and like I'll show you this guy. He is actually in a nursery pot. So again, just like the last one, when you water, take it out, water it in its nursery pot, wait till it's done dripping out, and then you can just plop it back in. And this guy actually fits perfectly in this pot. I love it when that happens. The pot just kind of fits perfectly nestled in there. You can't see it unless you're looking for it. Okay, next up are these really pretty baskets. They're really popular right now. I got this one at Lowe's for $7. And this, just like the last ones, it is in its nursery pot, but also something that's a little bit different about this one. At the bottom of these pots, you can put these. They are drip pans. You can buy them for just a couple bucks at Walmart, Lowe's, pretty much wherever. And they sit at the bottom of the baskets. So when you put the plant back in there after watering, or if you water it directly in there, this will catch all that excess water and won't get your basket all wet. Okay, and the last kind of pot I wanted to talk about are these orchid pots. This is the only one I have, and excuse the really sad orchid in this. Ever since we went on vacation, he just like will not get rehydrated. So I'm trying my best, but for now we'll just talk about the pot. These orchid pots, they have holes all over the pots. It really helps for aeration. Orchids are epiphytes in the wild, so that means they grow on trees and stuff. So they really like to like cling to stuff and like to drain out really quickly. So these pots just help aerate the orchid. So that is it for today's video. If I missed a kind of pot, or if you guys have any other questions, please leave a comment down below and let me know. I love answering your questions. So stay tuned for our next video. Be sure to like and subscribe down below, and we will see you at the next one. Bye.